All right, we are live. So this is Liz from Course Report, which is a resource for finding the coding bootcamp that's right for you. So if you haven't looked at Course Report yet, use our directory to find schools that fit all of your needs. Check out our blog for interviews with students, instructors, founders at bootcamps across the world. And we've got application tips, webinars, all kinds of good stuff. So we are based in New York, and so I try to go to as many bootcamp hiring days and student presentations as I can. And a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Dev Bootcamp New York hiring day for the Squirrel class. And there were 4 final projects. They were all really neat. The hiring day itself was awesome. You could tell that there was a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy in the classroom. It was really cool to be a part of. One of the projects that stood out to me, though, was called Counsel, which is a social app to make decision-making easy. And it was created by Missy, Anna, Jay, and Sagar. And we are joined today by Missy or Melissa and Anna to talk about their experience at Dev Bootcamp. And they're also going to take us through Counsel, and they're going to tell us how they approached issues like user experience and test-driven development and all that good stuff. So let's get started. So first of all, Melissa and Anna, introduce yourselves and maybe start by telling us what you were up to before you started at Dev Bootcamp, your sort of like education background and your last job and things like that. You want to start, Anna?
Yeah, sure. So I actually was doing marketing at Entertainment Weekly. So before that, I did go to college. I went to UC Berkeley. So it was a little bit of a career change, but definitely a good move. Love it.
Anna, when you were at UC Berkeley, did you ever take like a CS class, or did you have any technical background? No?
No, none at all.
All right, cool. Melissa, how about you?
I went to school for economics. I went to UC Davis, and before this I was doing some project management for a tech company, actually in New York, called Fixable, and I also didn't have any tech experience either.
Cool. But you had like been a part of sort of the tech environment.
I had been a part of it, but never as an engineer, so it's different when you're a part of it as a non-engineer. It's a whole different world.
Definitely. Before you decided to do a boot camp, had either of you done like Code Academy or like other online platforms that you started like teaching yourself, or did you go into it cold?
Yeah, I did do a lot online actually. Obviously, I started with Code Academy, which was definitely super helpful, but you can only go so far, you know, and then when you want to learn more, I like tried doing RubyMonk and stuff, but that's sort of what ultimately led me down the bootcamp path, was that just sort of needed someone who could kind of put it all together for me.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. I was working with engineers all the time, and I felt like they were kind of speaking this like secret language that I didn't understand, and so I just set out one Saturday and started Code Academy to try to like learn some buzzwords. And luckily I started with Ruby, and so it was easy to understand. And from there I realized how much I liked it, and I did as much as I could with Code Academy and Code School and Khan Academy and like all of those things, which were all very, very helpful. But ultimately, yeah, I needed to be in a classroom.
Cool. I talked to all kinds of people who have like different goals when they do a boot camp. Like they either, you know, they want to be like a technical co-founder or start their own business or get a job as a developer. What was your goal in doing Dev Bootcamp? Did you have a specific one?
I just wanted to overall learn how to program, and coming from somewhere like I didn't know anything, so I didn't know if I wanted to do front end or back end or anything, and like now I figured out I love front end, but I didn't go in with like a specific goal in mind other than to like sort of learn more about this thing that I was really stoked on.
Cool.
Yeah, I went in with the goal of just being able to build something from like the bottom up. It's interesting like being on the other side where you're on the product side and you're on the marketing side and you're trying to like say things that you like about it and things that you don't like about it and then sell it, and I just have always wanted to be a part of the actual building process, and as an engineer, like that's the way that you do that. So that's why I went in.
Cool. Were you both in New York when you decided?
Yeah.
Why did you decide Dev Bootcamp in particular? Like, did you look at other boot camps, or was it only Dev Bootcamp?
Yeah, I did look at other boot camps. I looked at App Academy. I looked at Flatiron School, and like they all seemed awesome. Like honestly, I still think I could have done great there. Just Dev Bootcamp I knew was like one of the first ones, so I assumed they had like a pretty solid process outlined, and also I like that they had that sort of aspect that's like they have you do yoga, and like they sort of just encourage you to like take a break and like not go insane, and I really like that part.
Yeah, me
Cool.
too. I went to actually a bunch of meetups about different like courses that I can take and boot camps that I can go to, and they all did seem really cool. But Dev Bootcamp really focuses on like the holistic programmer and not just someone who's, like hunched over their computer all day, not doing anything else. They really focus on that, and that was really important to me.
Cool. I love that. Was it important to you that Dev Bootcamp taught Ruby on Rails? And I know you said that that's what you like sort of started with, but was the like curriculum and the language important to you?
For me, it wasn't so much the language, other than I knew that like JavaScript was a really big thing, and I knew that Ruby was easy to sort of get acclimated. So overall, like from what I'd heard, I knew that was like a pretty good combo, and it worked for a lot of people. So I was like, maybe it'll work for me, you know?
Cool.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. It's interesting because Dev Bootcamp, while they do teach Ruby, and they teach JavaScript and they teach a bunch of other things, the main thing that I think that they focus on teaching is how to learn, which is so important for a programmer, because right now Ruby is like the hot thing, and I mean JavaScript will always be the hot thing, but like in 3 years there will be some other crazy framework or language that we'll need to learn, and like Dev Bootcamp really focuses on teaching you like how to learn those things and how to learn them well and efficiently. So that I think was like a bit more important for me than just like Rails.
What was like a typical day like for you at Dev Bootcamp? Were you doing like a lot of pair programming? Was there like typical sort of lecture where you had like teachers get up in front of you? What did a day actually look like?
So I guess I'll cover a little bit, and you can cover some of this.
Okay.
But so the morning for us was mainly like we had a lecture, and then we would generally pair program for up until lunch, and then around lunchtime we would break either for lunch or for yoga, or like a little of both, So that was like sort of the general structure of the morning. It was just lecture, then like here's a challenge, go code.
Okay.
Yeah, and then in the afternoon, usually we would have like a lecture around 2 or so, like right after lunch, just kind of like as a recap of you've been doing this challenge all morning. What challenges have you faced? What did you understand? What didn't you understand? Like what questions did you have? And we would kind of like do like a wrap up like that. And then we would go back and finish that challenge or work on another challenge. All the while, like coaches were kind of walking around and helping you, and you could ask different people questions and work with your pair or other people or by yourself if you chose. And then at the end of the day, we would just have a stand-up meeting that would just where you would say like what you had learned and any like blockers that you were facing and things like that. And then you were free to continue or go home or do what you wanted.
I think like we hear a lot about Dev Bootcamp and in this sort of like holistic view of a programmer, and doing a lot of like engineering empathy is sort of a buzzword that you hear a lot with Dev Bootcamp. Can you tell us like what that really meant to you like day to day? Were y'all doing like breakout groups, about different topics, or like what did engineering empathy mean like in a sort of realistic setting?
I'd say for day to day, for me personally, it just meant just you being receptive to receiving feedback, and also making sure you're able to give like really kind feedback that people can actually act upon, as opposed to just like something that could be construed as like cruel or mean, or just like is some random comment you just came up with. So I'd say for me, like on a day-to-day level, that was the main thing, was just being able to sort of like be in constant communication with everyone, and really like letting people know how you're feeling, or like what maybe they could work on or what you could work on. That was like the number one thing I took away. Not even just engineering empathy, just I'd say that's the main one.
Empathy in general as like a human.
Yeah, exactly. Like making sure you can actually get along with others, as opposed to just like power through a problem.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
Yeah, it's really like Dev Bootcamp also focuses a lot on being able to like work well with others, which is really important for programmers. And with pair programming, like oftentimes, like perhaps if I'm working with Anna, I have a way to do it and she has a way to do it, and it's not about like who gets to the mouse first. It's about like, do we both understand how to get to the answer? Can we both explain it to each other? Can we both work with each other? And like we had some engineering empathy courses about like, group dynamics and how to work well with others, and then just like being confident in the things that you know and how to like portray that to others and things like that. So yeah, engineering empathy was actually really neat. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. I've also heard that there are like some breakout groups with along the same lines about like imposter syndrome and being a woman in a boot camp and a woman like breaking into tech. And so since I have both of you lady coders here, I want to ask you, since you're both sort of like getting into the tech world. Melissa, you were in a tech company before, but now in a technical role. Like on a broad level, what has been your experience as a woman in tech or as a developer? Like, did you feel like there was a barrier to entry at all, and how did Dev Bootcamp sort of address that, if at all?
Yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
No, go.
I was just gonna say it's definitely. I mean, people talk about women in tech all the time, and when we go to meetups, like oftentimes there are not that many other females in the room and things like that. But Dev Bootcamp really does focus on like not just like pointing out that there are only 2 women in our class, but more so just like making everyone comfortable with the fact that you've got different types of people, whether they be like different genders, different, I don't know, any other type of diversity that you can have. So I think Dev Bootcamp really focused a lot on that, like not singling out women per se, but just like keeping up awareness with everybody in the room that there are differences and everyone should be open to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Miss really nailed it. Like that's really what they did. Like it. Because, you wouldn't want to make it like us versus them. Like, that's not what this is at all, you know what I mean? So it was really, even in, like, our engineering empathy sessions, like, while we did talk about women in tech briefly, it really was more so just, like, making sure that you're aware of everyone and that everyone comes from a different place and, like, just that whole idea. So far, that's been my experience as a woman in tech.
Have you found like any particular like meetup groups or groups outside of Dev Bootcamp to be helpful? Have you like stayed involved with like Girl Develop It or Railsbridge or any of these sort of like prolific groups that have become so popular these days?
Yeah, Girl Develop It actually. We host them sometimes at Dev Bootcamp, so I see them there quite often. That's a really cool group. I've been going to Code Genius, which has been really neat, and I went to a Rails meetup last weekend, or I beg your pardon, 2 weekends ago. We both did a hackathon though last weekend, a Spotify hackathon, which was really neat, and I think we'll both probably try to do that more often.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, those tend to be like super helpful because you're just in an environment where like everyone is as amped about coding as you are, and you can just kind of like geek out the whole day and talk to different people. It's a good experience.
And it was hosted by Spotify?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That was great.
Cool. So I guess like, with any boot camp there are things that could be changed afterwards or, things that you sort of reflect on. Was there a good like feedback loop with Dev Bootcamp? Like did you feel like your feedback was like taken into account? Were they like accommodating to what you had to say? Or did that never come up?
Go ahead, Anna.
Oh, I mean, they definitely are receptive of feedback. It's every Friday they send out a feedback form, and you're like encouraged to fill it out.
Okay.
And oftentimes you can see some of the feedback you actually asked for, like implemented immediately, which is like super awesome. So they definitely like try to keep that feedback loop super tight.
Yeah, they do. And you can feel comfortable too. I felt comfortable not many times, but as many times as needed to like speak to teachers directly or students directly and just tell them like, hey, I really like when you do this. Can you do more of this, or can you do more of this, or whatever? And they really are so receptive, and you'll see it the next day. Like all of a sudden they're giving, having more time for questions like you asked, or whatever it may be. It's the feedback loop. Yeah, like she said, is very tight.
Cool. Okay, well, I want to talk about council because that's the first thing that I noticed about you. And so tell us about the project. Melissa, if you want to share your screen and show us what council looks like, and then tell us what it does and walk us through it.
All right, I'm going to start this. So we built Council as a mobile-first application, so I'm not going to show you on my phone, but rather we'll just kind of go through this slideshow. So Council, oh, I beg your pardon. I'm going to start from here just so that you can see what Council is. So like Liz said, Council is a mobile decision-making app where you can ask people that you trust for feedback and then instantly take action on it. So we built it using Ruby on Rails and JavaScript, and we used a Postgres database. So basically, you're taken to your questions feed, which you can see right here. And so these are questions that different people have asked to their separate councils. So you can have a food council. You can have a food council. You can have a fashion council. You can have a music council. You can have a spring council, as you can see from this one. And those are just a group of 5 to 10 people to which you can send an image with a question. And upon receiving that image, your council or any member from your council can either swipe right to let you know that you should do it, or swipe left to let you know that you shouldn't do it. So for instance, this is a question that I asked: should I take a swim after? And if I sent this out to perhaps my spring council or my swimming council, they would let me know whether or not I should. And then I can click and see the response and know whether or not. So for this, you can see that one member from my council said that I should, one member said that I shouldn't. And that's pretty much the basics of council. I'll actually let Anna walk you through the UX and UI, because she had a big hand in that as well.
Totally. So basically what this is illustrating, we went over in our presentation, is just that when we started out, we had like so many different views, like it was getting super out of hand. And we realized like we weren't designing for desktop. Like we really needed to start thinking about mobile first and what that really means. So then once we reevaluated everything, we were able to completely redesign our wireframe totally. So this actually is like half the number of views. It's like looks much sleeker. So that was like a big lesson for us, because we had definitely experienced a lot of like desktop design, but this was like our first big mobile experience. So it was really exciting, and we definitely realized you had to take a different look at it.
Yeah, and we were really focused on like test-driven development, and so we made sure to like have that in the forefront of everything that we did. We had so many tests. We incorporated Travis CI and SimpleCove, and from that we were able to have like a 90% coverage rate, which we were really, really proud of.
Wait, Melissa, what is a 90% coverage rate? We hear like the word test-driven development all the time. Like what does it mean?
Yeah, so it just means like keeping like while you're coding, and hopefully before you even begin coding, you're actually just like implementing tests so that you're sure that, especially when you're working in a group like this, we have 4 people in our group and every person is working on something different, but ultimately you're going to step on someone's toes, and so you just want to make sure that something that perhaps I've implemented is not going to break something that Anna's implemented, or anything like that. So you need to like put tests in the beginning so that once I push anything, if something is broken, then I know, like, okay, I must have stepped on Anna's toes in some way because this is broken. And SimpleCove simply, like, it's kind of like a test for your tests. So it just sees, like, how much of what you've tested, or I beg your pardon, how much of your app is actually covered by testing. So basically 90% of our app is covered by testing. So it would be very hard for me to break something without knowing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great explanation.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's actually council in itself. It was super fun to build. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great.
How did you decide who to work with? Were you assigned people to work with as a group, or how did you get to?
Yeah, we were actually assigned. We were assigned groups. We all sort of voted on what projects we would want to work on, and then from that they decided who was going to be on each team, basically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really cool process. Like, you get to, there's so many creative people in your classes, and you get to kind of like hear all the ideas that they have, and then decide, like, they tell you what types of technologies that they want to use, and they tell you like exactly how they want to kind of implement their idea, and then you get to choose, like, this is exactly what I want to work on. So that was one of my favorite parts.
So did you know the technologies that you would be using to create council before you started, or did you all have like an idea and then you sort of had to figure out like what, like that Ruby on Rails and JavaScript were the best approaches?
We kind of like went into it actually knowing that we wanted to use frameworks we'd already sort of used. We had like a brief moment when we explored maybe doing Meteor, but ultimately we were like, you know what, we know Rails, like let's make sure this is awesome in Rails, and so that's what we did. So that's why we were able to do testing and everything like that, because we had that slightly extra time.
Yeah, it was really cool. I've had this idea for a really long time, actually, and I was trying to figure out like how, when I first had it and I didn't have any programming experience, I was thinking like how would somebody build something like this? Like, it just seems like I have no idea. But then after like having gone through the program and learned so many different frameworks and different languages, it was really cool to be able to say like, okay, we've sort of mastered this language. Like, let's just try to use it and let's see like what we can do with it. And we were able to do more than I even could have thought.
Cool. Well, I mean, it looks really great. Like, in addition to
Yeah.
having cool functionality, and there are all sorts of like use cases that I could think of to use Council. Like, it looks awesome. So y'all obviously like
Thank
had
you.
front end.
Yeah. We worked
mastering
hard on
and
that.
We did.
It was like the login page was like, I showed that to everyone for about 3 days. I made sure everyone saw our login page. So
Cool.
I was so proud.
Can you tell us about like an issue or a problem that you ran into, like either working together, as a team? That's like, collaborating on a project is difficult, or just like something that you hadn't learned before and you like sort of had to, learn as a group. Did you run into any like issues like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, when you're working with a group, and we had 6 days to build this project, so it's,
Wow.
yeah, your stress levels are like through the roof 99% of the time. And when you're like in this, you're like in this room and you're trying to figure out exactly what to do. And we had learned a lot about like agility methods and working agile. But sometimes, like, especially being the team lead, like, it was hard to say, like, okay, we're going to take this whole feature and you do this, and then we'll take this whole feature and you do this, because you're so pressed for time that it's like, just go over there and do your work, like, that type of thing. So I feel like in hindsight, I wish that I could have broken it up a bit more, using the agile framework, instead of doing like specific front end and specific back end. But we actually kind of learned that along the way, and we were able to kind of take some pretty large pivots that allowed us to do that way better. So like the last 4 days of the project, I think we broke up the work a lot better.
Yeah. Cool.
I'd agree with that, basically. It was definitely a learning curve trying to get everyone on the same page. That was really the main thing. So I think Miss really crushed it.
Well, we all did. Everyone did.
Yeah, no, I mean, we totally all did, but your answer was totally on point.
Awesome. Are there plans to launch Council like as a product to the public anytime soon?
Yeah, it's actually already on Heroku, but we're going to try to see if we can. Heroku's not like extremely reliable all the time, so we're gonna look for some other options. We also have like a couple of other features and things bug fixes that we wanted to implement first, so it's on the road.
Yeah,
cool.
One day it'll get there.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I will put a link for anyone who's watching. I'll put a link to the Heroku app so that you can see what it looks like live, and then hopefully we'll see it in the App Store someday.
Awesome.
Yeah, you will.
Cool. Well, okay. So when I saw y'all, you were at the demo day, hiring day. When was that, and what's happened since then? Have you been interviewing? Have you been working on projects more? What's up today?
Yeah, I've been interviewing. I've been like chatting with people over coffee, like going to meetups. As Missy said, we went to the hackathon. But yeah, mainly right now, I'm just trying to make sure all my like all my information is up to date and all of that good stuff you do when you're job hunting. But also I'm working on a new app that hopefully I'll be launching today or tomorrow. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. Yeah, I've been doing pretty much the same stuff.
What is it called?
So it's called Nightly Nachos. Yeah.
Oh. I think it's frozen.
I think it is. Liz?
Darn. Here, let's see.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn my camera off because maybe you can see me then. Okay. Are we back?
Yeah.
Back.
Okay, cool. I'm going to turn my bandwidth down so that it doesn't cut us out. Okay, cool. Melissa, what are you up to?
The same stuff that Anna said, interviewing, looking for jobs. I'm actually also a coach now at Dev Bootcamp, so I've been doing that on the week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's been really fun. It's a really good way to kind of sharpen your skills too. I'm learning, just having to step through someone's code and figure out what the bugs are. It's actually really challenging, so I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did Dev Bootcamp do a lot of job prep with your class? Did y'all do interview practice and resume building and stuff like that? And how much of that did you do?
Yeah, we actually had a full week of it where we just did interviews and interview prep and everything. But sorry, hold on, I gotta move rooms.
Oh no, sorry.
Continue, miss.
Yeah, we had a whole career week where we did, like she said, interview prep and whiteboarding and how to build a tech resume, because most of us have never had to do that before, and cover letters and how to cold outreach people, things like that. It was really helpful, and we do whiteboarding Wednesdays at Dev Bootcamp, which is really great, and just kind of getting you on your feet with that marker in your hand and how you're going to feel and things like that. So that was really, really helpful.
So cool. Well, I guess my last question is just, was Dev Bootcamp worth the money? Would you recommend it? And if we skipped over anything in the interview, let the audience know now.
Yeah, I mean, Dev Bootcamp was definitely worth the money. It's one of those things where it's not one of those situations where you pay the money and you just become a programmer. That's really not what it is, and I think that's important for people to understand. Rather, it's you're paying the money, and you paying the money is saying that you're going to go through and give this whole program your all, and you're going to really give more than you ever thought you could for those full 19 weeks, all the time. And then from there, you will become a programmer, and you will be so proud of the transition that you've made. But Dev Bootcamp, and there are resources there that I've received, and just people that I can rely on, and people that I can go to at any point of my day. And it's such an amazing environment, and it's such a great program to be a part of. So I would highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely second that. It's really what you put in that really is what you get out. But also, if for anyone who's actually watching this and is looking to maybe go to a boot camp, I would definitely say research them all. Look into all of them. Find the one that's actually the best fit for you personally. If you have experience, whether or not you want engineering empathy, whether that's important to you, they all offer so many great things, and honestly, I think they're all awesome. But you can definitely find one that's best for you.
Cool. Well, with that, I will tell you that you can use Course Report to find the bootcamp that's best for you if you're looking for that. But Missy and Anna, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your experience. We can't wait to see what you get up to in the next couple weeks and couple months, and we will definitely keep up with your success. And we can't wait to see Council live in the App Store and Nightly Nacho. Cool. So I will put contact information when I post this, and you can reach out to Missy and Anna if you have specific questions. But until then, we will see you at the next webinar. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, Liz.